I guess what changed? I mean, what is it? Is it the public zeitgeist? Is it, that's we've kind of come to terms, at least to some degree, with kind of hustle culture and some of the dark aspects of it, or did your organization kind of acquire the confidence to start to assert that no, that is there's a difference between kind of stated preferences and revealed preferences, and what you actually want based on our data or whatever it is something different than what maybe you say you want. How did you get to that place?
It's really interesting. I mean, I think some of all of that, like, over the years. So I was at the company for 4 years when it started, 2007 to 2011. And then, I stepped away and started doing other things. I worked at some other startups. I worked at a venture capitalist firm, at an incubator. And along the way, I kept the habits that the product sort of built for me, which were basically, once I got to like 3 to 4 hours of productive time, according to what I had configured in the version of the app that we had built, I knew I could stop working. Like, no matter when it was in the day, like if I kept going, I was going to burn myself out. This is something that I learned.
Yeah.
And so, when I worked at Rescue Time for those 4 years, I could just do that. If it was like 2 p.m. and I hit my goal, I would just cut out, because like I was the founder of the company and everybody understood inside the company that that's what was optimal for everybody. And so it wasn't a big deal. But when I switched to when I worked for somebody else, like, no, almost nobody has that context. So like the optics were really bad if I did that. So I always just kind of like found a way to stick around and like do other things. During the pandemic, well, actually, let me back up for a second. So remote work was always also a big thing. Like one of our investors is Automatic, or sorry, the founder of Automatic, Matt Mullenweg, and Automatic is a fully remote company that makes WordPress. They were one of the first. They were pretty public about the benefits of it. They helped us realize that we could be fully remote, and we've been doing that for a long time. But it wasn't until the pandemic that people kind of got the empathy to understand that being remote was actually okay and not something that you need to be afraid of, right? Like, unless you have that personal experience, just like anything else, you're afraid of like, oh, somebody's going to take advantage of me, or I'm going to lose something by making this switch. But during the pandemic, that all changed, and everybody kind of got a sense for like, oh, actually, this is kind of okay. And because of that, I think people are starting to be more open to these other ideas that kind of go along with it, which is a lot of, the things that sort of people think of as productivity are just sort of optics, like being, Paul Graham actually said in our interview at Y Combinator that like, oh, this could break the spell of the 40-hour work week. Like the idea that people hang coats on the back of their chairs instead of like, actually working. And they've been doing that for decades.
Yeah.
And so we've always been trying to set out to do that, but there wasn't as much reception for it. And I think people are starting to figure it out because they have actual experience around like commuting isn't a thing anymore. What does that give you back in your day? And like, how much time does it really take to do the things that you really need to do? So
Mhm.
I think that's a big part of it.